Let the meltdown begin. MMA Meltdown on the Fight Network. I am Gabriel Morency. Let's do this thing as we get you ready for UFC Fight Night 55 and 56. At least I think that's what it is. Is it 550 and 560? Whatever the hell it is. We know it's Bisping versus Rockhold, and we know that it's Shogun versus who? Oh, yeah, that's right, OSP. Not GSP, but we got some GSP news as well. And as you can see, we've got John Ramdeen from the Fight Network sitting alongside. Joey Oddessa is going to join us in a couple of moments' time. We're going to crunch the numbers, get to as many fights as we possibly can. John, it's always a pleasure, my man. How you doing?
I'm doing A-okay. That's a great... Anytime there's two UFCs on a weekend, I'm good to go.
Yeah, not too bad. Friday and Saturday night, back-to-back. A ton of fights to break down. Kind of strange scheduling as of late, though, isn't there? We get these double headers, and then we don't get anything for a couple of weeks. But I think now that the baseball playoffs are over, of course, Fox and Fox Sports 1, right holders to the World Series. Now Fox and Fox Sports 1 have a little bit more airtime.
Yeah, I guess it makes sense. And now you get to see some great matchups. I mean, you look at the main events, yeah, OSP. That's not the fight that was supposed to happen. You look at the fight that was supposed to happen, Jimmy Manuwa, Shogun, makes perfect sense, two stand-up guys. But conversely, you look at the fight between Bisping and Rockhold, very, very competitive. Two guys at the top of the food chain.
Yeah, I like this Australian card a little bit more. Although, and I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, you can't judge cards before they happen. Oh, this card sucks. That card sucks. It's like judging the weather. It's like waking up and looking at the weather report and saying, oh, the weather sucks. You got to go outside, John. You got to experience the weather to find out whether the weather sucked or not.
It's true. I agree 100%. But the fact is, you also need to be excited to go out and spend $60 on a card. And yes, the main event, you look at a main event, it's like, yeah, that main event's good, but you need a good supporting cast. And I think anybody that's followed MMA for a long time, and I go back and use Pride as an example, I went to the first show in Las Vegas, and the first fight of the night was Robbie Lawler versus Joey Villasenor. You fast forward to now, You're not seeing that. So I think over the years, MMA fans have been spoiled.
No, without a doubt. It's funny that you say that, John, because whenever I see old school MMA posters, we got a ton of them around the office here at the Fight Network. I've got a ton of old UFC posters that I used to use on the show on the old set in the old days. And it's almost like, wow, you almost can't believe how stacked the cards were, right? You're like, man, that was a crazy card. And that's you got like 4 Hall of Famers on that card. And like, now you don't really get that. Now it's sort of become like boxing. Main event, everything else.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And MMA was different than boxing. You know, there was always
That's what Dana always said. We don't just have a main event. We got 12 fights that people want to see. Not anymore.
Not anymore. And you hope that guys, end up being the future of their division, but, with 500 fighters on their roster, it's going to be impossible to do.
So why does everybody hate Michael Bisping so much, other fighters? And I've been around the fight game quite a long time right now. I've met pretty much everybody. I pretty much know who's cool, who's not, who's a dick, who's, etc., who people think is a jerk, but's actually cool. I pretty much know the scene. And my interaction with Bisping, positive. I got a great story. I know a guy that works rock concerts in Montreal. A great gig, actually. A drug dealer, keeper wear to the stars. But basically, this guy drives them around, hooks people up with whatever they need. So when they went to the Bell Center, Bisping's there. He gets Bisping. He's got to drive Bisping around like for a couple of days. So after Bisping's fight, Bisping's like, yeah, let's go out. So they go to a crazy like rave. There's like, crazy people in Laval, Quebec, Montreal, all right? Bikers and nut jobs. And my buddy tells me, man, we go to this rave, man, and Bisping's fighting with like Hell's Angels. He's rolling over with people and comes out all smiling and goes, let's go to another place. And says, this Bisping's a good guy.
Yeah.
But fighters seem to want to make a name off of him, yet like everyone's like, oh, this hype with Rockhold and all the smack talk. I'm so bored with this crap, John.
Yeah.
I don't care about your smack talk. Just shut up and fight.
For you, maybe, but I think for the masses, they need two individuals, two guys that are going to be the main event. They need to create interest because we all know they're going to step inside of the cage. They're going to fight. They're going to train their asses off to ensure that they're successful. But the fact is that people still, that's the whole sport. Well, everybody trains. Everybody trains at good camps. They all step inside of the cage. Bisping and Rockhold do a good job of selling the fight. Bisping probably does a better job than 90% or 99%.
He just has to sign the contract.
That's right. But it's not just that, because everybody knows that Michael Bisping's a professional. They know that he always comes in shape. You see that he's constantly improving his skills. But what Bisping does better than everybody else, or better than most, is that he gets under fighters' skin. And because of that, you start seeing interest being created.
Bisping's good, not great, though, right?
Yeah.
That's his problem.
Yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of miles. He's been in this game for a long time.
35 years old, and what is it, 31 fights? 31 fights, 22nd fight in the UFC.
Yeah.
I swear to God, I've been to a lot of cards. I've never heard a pop in my life than I did when Dan Henderson knocked him out.
Yeah.
Like, that was, people just reveled and they hated Bisping going down. Rockhold's 30 years old. Rockhold's got to win this fight. He's running his mouth so much. He's already lost to Belfort. If he wants to be taken seriously, I know he's a Strikeforce champion, but if he wants to be taken seriously in the UFC, he needs to win this fight. The odds makers, John, they think he is. He's a minus 450 favorite. I like Rockhold in this fight. 5 years younger, bigger, stronger, less miles. There's a lot to like.
That's what it comes down to. And I mean, I love Michael Bisping because, again, he's a guy that you can count on. You know he's always going to deliver, win or lose. Always, 100%. But as you mentioned, Luke Rockhold, it's the miles. The fact is, you know, he trains with one of the best camps in the world. But even Javier Mendez, a.k.a. Javier Mendez, who is Luke Rockhold's coach, it's not as if they're like, oh, this is going to be an easy day for Luke Rockhold. He's confident that Luke Rockhold's not going to have any problems with Michael Bisping, but he's aware of the type of talent that Michael Bisping is, that he's going to come into this fight strong, prepared, and he's going to have a solid game plan, because that's what Michael Bisping does.
Yeah, Bisping needs this as well. Otherwise, he becomes the official gatekeeper. He already sort of is that gatekeeper. Yet Rockhold is an up-and-coming, you know, former champion. Rockhold's a badass. Bisping wins this. You know, it's funny. Bisping wins this. He keeps himself relevant. It's funny because they were dying for Bisping just to win 2 or 3 freaking fights in a row so they can give him a title shot and put a big fight in England. It looks like Conor McGregor sort of stealing some of that European thunder, so to speak. You know, they can make some of that money with Conor that they never really made with Bisping. All right, we got to be quick on the way out here. Let's blast through these other ones. Ross Pearson and Iaquinta. Pearson keeps getting better, man. He hasn't stayed stagnant. Training in San Diego with those studs has really helped him.
Yep.
I think Quinta, I've always thought, somewhat a little bit overrated.
Well, you say that, and I think most people believe
at least by the odds makers.
That's,
I'm not going to say him, but by the odds makers.
You're right, and I think one of the reasons why I had the luxury to talk to Chris Weidman, UFC middleweight champion, and he is very, very high on Al Iaquinta. He says, you know, when you see this guy inside of the gym, in the training room, he's capable of doing remarkable things. But unfortunately for him, once the time comes, he just can't do it inside the cage, something we've seen from Mike Ricci in the past.
Yes, good comparison.
But Ross Pearson, he gets it. It's like, wait a second, how do I make money? How do I leave mixed martial arts with my pockets lined, do a Chuck Liddell, sprawl, keep it standing?
Fighter,
like,
talk about honest efforts. You know Pearson's going to show up. He's going to do his thing. He's been in so many wars. I like the experience factor here. Can Iaquinta win? Yes, but I like the experience factor. All right, we only got about a minute left. I want to get more to Shogun, one of your guys. That's why I love having you on whenever Shogun fights. You love these old school dudes. Dana wanted him to retire about 1.5 years ago. He's only 32 years old. It's amazing. Like, he looks 42, 52. Yeah. But he's an old 32. But he's 32.
What's funny is you say that Dana White wanted him.
Is he really 32?
He's 32. Who knows? It's like saying Minotoro's like 38. It's like 68.
It's like Vanderlei. He's only 35.
I know, it's crazy. But for, you know, say that Dana White wanted Shogun to call it a day. The guy offered him a coaching slot next to Anderson Silva in the upcoming season of The Ultimate Fighter. So you imagine that job security is there, because even if he loses this fight with Ovin St. Preux, which I think is a real possibility because he's had problems with grapplers in the past, Dan Henderson, Mark Coleman, you look at the guys that he's lost to, that's the Chael Sonnen, John Jones. I mean, Shogun wants to come out, blast OSP, but to OSP will probably look to take it down and grind it out.
You think so?
I think so.
I don't know if OSP. I don't know if he's got enough. We're talking about Iaquinta stepping it up.
Yeah.
OSP. I don't know. He got dominated by Bader. He almost had his will broken there. But we've seen guys that get beaten down like that. Phil Davis looked awful against Anthony Johnson. Really woke him up and he came back. All right. Finally, in closing, this is a fight that I'm really looking forward to. Lineker and Uncle Creepy. I like Uncle Creepy.
Yeah, I like him too because he's so diverse. But I mean, for Lineker, he's young, doesn't have the miles, again, has that mentality, sprawl, keep the fight standing, and make Lineker pay every time he gets in. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw an upset and saw Lineker win.
John Ramdeen with us quickly in closing. GSP up to 200 pounds right now.
Enjoying life. Good for the former champion.
People ask me a lot, is he coming back? I'm like, dude, he's been retired for 3 weeks. Chill out. And I said, no, I don't think he is going to come back. I think he's done. I've changed my mind. I think he will come back, but not to fight Hendricks and Lawler and all that other type of stuff. He's 200 pounds right now. I don't think he wants to cut that much weight. I think he's looking for some money in a super fight.
I think just give him super fights. If that's what he wants, bring him back. He said if he's going to go up to 185 pounds, he just needs the necessary time. Yeah. Just the idea of thoughts of fights between Anderson Silva and GSP or GSP and Vitor Belfort, sign me up.
Yeah, you don't need a belt for Anderson Silva, GSP. No. You can also probably fill up the Rogers Center in Toronto again like they did against, if you could fill it up against Jake Shields, you can fill it up with Anderson Silva. MMA Meltdown continues thanks to Ramdeen. Joey Oddessa joins us next.